see if we got it right this time around. Uh, all right, I see we're live. It says live, but I don't see the live. Let's see. All right, so you guys can see the live. Can you hear it? Is the next question. I think you can. Hold on. Let's see. Um, maybe y'all can't. No, you guys can. Okay. All right. So this is really just kind of a chill thing, but also just to like talk about some, you know, some theories I've had. The main one is pretty much the most recent one, um, which involves or not Liebe, Asta not getting magic or grimoire. Um, and oh, Din, you're always supporting, dude. Glad to see you here. But yeah, so yeah, I'm just gonna talk about Asta not getting grimoire, no magic, and not having mana. I know there's like several videos already on here that kind of talk about this, and to be honest, it's gonna go in line with um, a few other videos I've talked about Asta's innate ability. Um, so it'll be consistent, but there's something that was introduced um, to us pretty recently that might explain exactly why Asta didn't get anything to start with. Um, Byron, how's it going? You, both of you in the chat, you guys are always here supporting, like Johnny on the spot. I really do appreciate that. Um, so yeah, I guess I'll just hop straight into it. To be honest, and if you guys want, since I have you guys, Din and Byron, like if you guys have anything you guys want to talk about specifically, just throw it in the chat and I'll give my take on it or whatever. Like I said, it's a chill stream. We're gonna yap. Um, but to get into this theory, right? Why Asta has nothing? I want to start at the part that makes it the most relevant. And I know, like at this point in the series, people are thinking like it's over. The bell rang. The fat lady saying we're about to get up out of here and start a new series. Like I get it. And the way this ends up coming out, it actually doesn't matter if Asta gets this attribute that I'm going to talk about. Um, and it doesn't change the trajectory of the story too much. And it's not something that's going to be like extremely useful for him. like, um, and you'll see why exactly. And it fits narratively well with what's going on. But we also do see some examples of it that I've talked about in past streams or videos, and even especially on Twitter. Why the magic that he will get is going to be pretty much obsolete, something that he probably won't even use, even though he has conscious knowledge of it now. Um, so it starts with Lucius explaining how grimoires work, right? And that was like the thing we were all waiting for. Like since chapter one, people are asking like, how do grimoires work? We need to know this because, this kid not only doesn't get a grimoire, but he gets a grimoire that he shouldn't have received at all, right? Because five leaves aren't supposed to be chosen. They're supposed to be stolen from someone, right? And as shown by Zagrid, he says only devils should be able to wield the five leaves. So what's actually going on? And while this theory doesn't like cleanly address like why he's able to wield the five leaf or why the five leaf kind of chose him, it does address everything else. So Lucius talks about how a mage gets a grimoire from a grimoire tower, and the grimoires are region specific and they're mana signature specific, right? So we already knew mana signatures. That's pretty intuitive, right? Like, whoever has the closest mana signature is going to receive a certain grimoire. with that specific attribute from a previous mage that used to have that. But it's also region specific. So this is a really important mechanic because a lot of fate ties into this, right? You need to be in the right place at the right time, or else you're not going to get the grimoire that you're supposed to get. Is proof of this, right? Just by deduction. So didn't even know that he had star magic because he was born in the Clover Kingdom, where his elf soul was born, right in that forbidden region. And so wind magic was the most relevant thing to him. And so he receives that grimoire, but doesn't show any real expression of star magic. You can definitely make an argument for the dungeon being like the first real expression of star magic, which I think it was. But he doesn't really actually get into it until the Spade arc, which is much later, right? And this also has a mixture of the gray effects. Like, mages will only know what they're capable of as far as their mind will take them, right? And so when it comes to magic itself, a lot of the person's inner state has to do with how that magic manifests, right? So like the Noel effects. I know I'm kind of all over the place right now, but the structural groundwork is important to understand why I'm even thinking this to begin with. So the Noel effect is how we see the soul has a very real place in how magic manifests at all. So Noelle, even though she knows she's got a lot of magic, she's very powerful, she couldn't control it because she had a lot of unresolved issues, right? From her past, from her siblings, that were making her, that was making her magic hard to control. And then you have Gray, who was under the impression that she had transformation magic, when that wasn't the case at all. And it actually took an extreme, level of soul searching when she was about to lose Gush in the fight against Dante to actually realize her full potential. And then I always forget his name, the medic that they only brought up once. He's got great healing feats, but the guy who put Yami's arm back on with the glasses, the jellyfish healing guy, he goes and says that your magic was completely mislabeled. You actually have transmutation magic, like you're a true magician, or an alchemist rather. And so from then on, she fully understands her magic and is able to apply it in the way that it was meant to, right? So just then we're talking about a couple of different dynamics, right? One, even knowing the full extent of your magic, and then two, the level in which you know your soul, and how I guess healed you are and in touch with it. It is Owen. Thank you, Din. And Faye, how's it going? Good to see you. So with those two things in mind, we have to look back at Austin and think, okay, so what are some possibilities that could have gone wrong? Let's just look at the grimoire. Either there was no mana signature for any grimoire in that tower, or he was in the wrong tower to begin with, and he shouldn't have been at the Clover Tower, right? And we even have, again, as an example, being seen by Lucius in many timelines, and he's seen with star magic. He didn't really mention wind magic ever, and in fact, he was surprised when busted out Notice. I don't know if you guys caught that, but he was like, "What the hell is this spell?" The future was already changing, but now there's just a new spell against his biggest op, and so it just throws everything off. So we get this dynamic of seeing in a place where he never reaches the full potential of star magic that we see, and the wind magic is not mentioned at all. Because in that case, was not in the right place to receive that second grimoire. So he could have had that second soul. He may not have, but say he did, he would never receive a grimoire from that. And going back to the gray effect, if he got the Spade grimoire first and still had that elf soul, he might not have realized that magic ever because just wasn't relevant. Like he didn't know that he had that potential. Uh, so for Asta, what I'm proposing is that both things are true. That he was both in the wrong place and he didn't have the right mana signature. Now, when we're focused on just the Grimoire, what I'm thinking is that he didn't get one, not just due to a lack of mana, but because his Grimoire was actually already in use by someone else that's living. Um, so it wasn't in a tower at all. And what I'm thinking is that Asta actually was supposed to have soul magic. And here's where things get kind of dicey, right? Because Lucius ends up making a pact with Astaroth, who has time magic. Now, I'm not the biggest believer that Lucius was out here, jumping throughout time, right? Actively time traveling. I don't believe that. I know we did get a panel of Lucius like walking up to Lucida. Until that's made explicitly clear that it was time travel, I just think it was a flashback, to like just after she died. So with that in mind, there could be some time dilation type stuff where he's both out of place and out of time, or at least the Grimoire that was supposed to be his, which is why he wouldn't have received the Grimoire. Now that Lucius is dead, the Grimoire should go back to the Spade Tower. Now, it would actually take Asta, maybe getting hit by into a Spade Tower randomly by chance to be able to get this Grimoire. Just like did. How that would go, I'm not completely sure, to be honest with you guys. Like, this is really just a crackhead theory in the end, so it won't always be clean. But I think soul magic ends up fitting Asta perfectly because when we talk about the narrative in place right now, it's that Lucius and Asta are actually perfect reflections of each other. The only thing that is different between them is the method in which they are trying to get to the same end goal, right? Asta wants equity, but Lucius wants equality. Now they're like two halves of the same coin, not two sides, but two halves of the same coin. So now, when we think about Asta not having access to the Soul Grimoire because Lucius is actively alive using it, it could come to fruition that the mana signature also goes from person to person, like from reincarnation to reincarnation. So if the user of this grimoire with that mana signature is not dead yet, then the mana signature might not get to the new soul as it is, right? And we do get a little bit of a discrepancy with like the faunas, which I think is a really, really weird situation. But if his mana wasn't ready for him, just like the grimoire, then yes, he's living in the shadow of mana, which is the absence, right? Which means anti-magic is the only thing that can fit him. So this might be Lucius biting himself in his own ass, right? So there's when Lucius was first introduced, we had that big break before we got this magazine switch, right? And a bunch of those videos came out that I put out, really talking about the magic itself and some mechanisms that might come into play. And one of those things is that we see Lucius use incarnations, but the ultimate soul spell is going to be a reincarnation, which is completely bypassing life and death, and taking control of the soul cycle itself, which Lucius doesn't really show us, which is crazy. And I did make a post as to why he didn't show us anything amazing with soul magic, and it really just has to do with him being more of like a Seke type, where he didn't feel like he had to try and he just wanted to cheat his way through and take all the easy way out the entire time. So I keep forgetting. I need to look at the chat really quick. Sorry, guys. It's been a while. I'm not a YouTuber anymore. Um, all right, Byron. You said I fully believe now that Lucius never needed a backstory explaining his actions. Because why would a character who believes himself to be a Christ ever need a reason to explain his inferiority complex? Um, yeah. I mean, I don't think the backstory was necessary. I think even on this channel, we'd been talking about how like he was just a pathetic human. He just had a really really broken power, and it was the circumstances of his life, right? Not having the strength to be able to carry out his will like everyone else does for whatever reason that was, whatever sickness he had. Um, really uh, morphed the way he viewed the world and the people in it. Um, you know, to him, life looks more unfair because he's physically unable. But the thing that really drives him mad is the power that he has, but just can't use effectively because of his lack of physical ability. Asta, on the other hand, is very physically able from the beginning, right? He's doing 1,000 push-ups a day with one hand on one finger, right? Handstand push-ups, whatever the heck he was doing, right? He's fully physically able, but he's got nothing Lucius has. He doesn't have a lot of mana. He's not from a royal family, or we assume maybe royal family, whatever. Um, nothing special about this kid that we know of at all. So everything Lucius lacks, Asta had. Everything Asta has, Lucius lacked, right? So they're perfectly complementary, but they're also mirrors of each other. Where Asta's deficiencies don't dictate who he becomes or who he will be, um, Lucius let all of that dictate him. So he dictated the world. Where Asta, the way he dictates the world isn't through magic. It's not by force. This is a natural thing that happens, and this is going to go cleanly into why I think soul magic is something that Asta actually has. So, something we have talked about before is that what Asta does with Patri completely transcends just a mere anti-magic feat or even causality breaking. It's he is directly interfacing with someone's soul, right? When he's dragging Patri out and saving him from himself, from becoming a dark elf. Um, we know it's a soul because Patri's still a kid. He's the age that he should be um, when we see him, when Asta meets him, right? So it's not a simple, oh, I'm going to tap this sword on him because causality break. And we have to also realize that Patri was not under the influence of a spell. That's the most important thing here. Um, when an elf becomes a dark elf, that's that is their species reacting to emotion. That's not magic. Um, so there's no actual spell to break, which is, I think, something really, really crazy to conceptualize. So what I'm proposing in this sense is that the sword, causality breaking, he needed that sword for sure to help him get there. But it was anti-magic being used as the interface, as that means to get that sword to work, to then get Asta to be able to use that potential soul magic. And I guess it's kind of hard to talk about like using anti-magic in this sense without actually like going into like why or what I think anti-magic really is. Um, and I'll keep it really short. So when it comes to anti-magic itself, um, it seems as though it is not. Uh, I just to put it really, really bluntly, because I do want to keep this part brief. Anti-magic is not anti-magic the way we know. I think the way Libe ends up describing it to him before he, Asta sacrifices his arm for Libe, um, is that it's power itself, right? So it's still an antithesis to mana. I'm not saying that it's not, but I don't think it's anti-magic specifically. And some of the most recent events do lend into this, but there are also some subtle things leading up to the recent events that had anti-magic, the whole anti-magic labeling kind of like, I'm scratching my head a little bit, right? Because the first thing is that Lucida seals him inside of the grimoire. This is magic, right? And magic generally, for the most part, um, subsides when a mage dies, right? It's a bit different when it comes to sealing, though. It has been shown, like even in the movie, right? Um, you know, whoever seals can definitely pass on, and the seal still is in effect, but it's still a magical effect. So when Libe actually unlocks his anti magic, by proxy, he should be free of the sealing that happened to him. And that just isn't the case ever, right? So that's one thing, when that was revealed to us, it was like, okay, wait, this is kind of crazy, right? And then they get to Hino, um, and Libe is literally the source of the anti magic, and he's getting healed by magic, like right off rip. So it was kind of strange, right? Because we have seen that when Asta is using a bunch of anti magic, it's hard to heal him. But then healing the direct source is something they're able to do with magic, right? So it just never fit. But then it starts fitting better because he gets Contra Demon or Comra Demon, excuse me, and is able to share with his friends. And we see that it cloaks their spell, um, and just shields it from incoming magic, right? So it's able to land no matter what. So it seems to me that no matter what, like, say if I actually did use this example when I explained this before a while ago. Say Luck got anti magic. The shape of the anti magic is going to be lightning, just like we saw when Luck used it. Um, for Asta's case, he's only got the swords to use as a medium. So it's going to take the shape of those swords, and whatever the swords do, the anti magic is going to uh, is going to amplify. And that's exactly what has been shown, right? Um, so I'm going to keep it there. I don't want this to be about anti magic right now, but this comparison between Austin and Lucius and the different ways they would be using soul magic would be beautiful, because imagine Asta does get this grimoire, and he realizes his true potential as a soul magician. I think it would be the greatest thing if Asta uh, just never uses it, or like expresses to himself that he would never ever use this, because we've seen that absolute power absolutely corrupts. We've seen that. That's been the story the whole time, from the elves to the humans, especially the humans. Um, but what Lucius is pulling off is something Asta's been doing naturally on his own, without the attribute of the soul, right? Um, and that's the beauty of Asta and the story, is that he didn't need magic, even though there might have been magic waiting for him. Ultimately, he never needed it. So Lucius ended up being his own worst enemy in this sense, right? Because he's occupying a grimoire that he probably shouldn't have had. He probably outlived his actual lifespan, um, by using the soul magic, and whatever actually happened between him, Julius, and Osteroth really threw this grimoire timeline and flow off. So it creates Asta. Now, this goes into something that I was thinking about just yesterday. Was that when Asta's compared to people in the series, um, he's only ever compared to light and dark magicians, mages, right? He's compared to Morgan, he's compared to Yami, and then he's compared to Lumiere. And then, of course, he's got like Lick's sword, right? So, with that in mind, you have things like, and I started thinking about this because I was like, I had a full issue of people saying, like, where was this? How we got to escape using this terminology of characters having the ability to affect concepts. Like, it's the most brain dead thing ever. Uh, Mostly because, and this came out of the Noct versus Lilith Anama fight, right? Where Noct tries to seal them, they bust out. And he's like, "Oh no, they can even affect intangible concepts." Like, it was just sloppy dialogue, very lazy dialogue. Like, and it's not supposed to be taken literally, right? Because, and I say this with meaning, it's not just a tangent, but like, shadows, yes, technically in science don't exist. It's the absence of light, right? So when light's not able to reach something, its absence creates that shadow, which is non-existence, essentially. Um, Kind of a trippy thought, but when Knox says this and people start saying, "Oh, they affected concepts," it's not true, because mana is physical, um, and so even if Noct is manipulating shadow that already exists, by him just simply adding mana to it, it then does exist. So when they're breaking out of this, it is not affecting a concept. It might be breaking like a magical rule, sure, but it's not an intangible concept. It's very, very much tangible, and if it's tangible, it's able to be broken. It's like that simple. Um, so if we imagine Lucius as the light in this sense, and he is, and we just like take him out of his original timeline, what's left is absence. And the absence that comes from that is Asta. Um, and maybe Libe too. You guys know my thoughts on Libe. I think there's some other things happening with him. Actually, just made a post that we'll probably go over a little bit later. But through him, manipulating his own life and his own timeline, Asta is then born out of that absence, uh, and that's what starts his own defeat. Is that he was using magic in unnatural ways already to cheat the system, to do things in a less than moral way, uh, to get to that certain end, right, of equality. Um, so it just lends more into the fact that Lucius not only loses to his own ego, but he had already lost as soon as he tried, cheating the system, if you will. Uh, Make sure there's nothing in the chat. Nothing. Okay, great. Um, but yeah, I mean, the original thought ends up being that this whole time Asa's had anti magic, and I think one of the really cool things, if you think about this too, is that when you look at Lucius, what are like the one of the five lines he's always been repeating? Yuno's my rival. Yuno's my. This is like a 50-ass-year-old dude saying this teenager, like just over teen now, I think, right? Is his rival. What has Asta been saying this whole time? Yuno's my rival. But Lucius is toxic about his rival. He's trying to kill him. Asta's been trying to build his rival this whole time. So now Lucius loses the soul magic. Asta gains the same soul magic. The rivalry is still there, and it makes sense, right? Um, so I guess that's kind of like the idea. I don't know your guys' thoughts on this. If it sounds crazy, if it doesn't sound crazy, I don't know. To me, it makes some kind of sense. In the long run, again, I don't think it really affects the story. He could easily get this, and like I said, um, you just be like, I'm not going to do anything with this. Like, the whole beauty of us is our struggle. That's our upbringing. That's what shapes us. If Magna had the power, he would not have gone the great lengths to create the spell that he did. Noelle wouldn't have been able to house something like Leviathan if she didn't reach into the depths of her own soul, her own magic, to then hone it fully, to then also end up repairing her family issues in the long run. Like, all of this goes hand in hand. I saw a chat come in. The last three chapters really nailed down what Vanessa said about the god of fate not giving Asta magic. Um, what specifically are you talking about? Because I think I agree with you. Um, but yeah, um, I forgot what I was saying. Damn. Um, yeah, totally forgot what I was saying. Scatterbrained. Anyway, um, there's something else I wanted to talk about with you guys too. Oh. Okay, so let's talk about what could happen. Now, I only think there's 6 to 9 chapters left. And I think that Tabata, when we're talking about the story getting cut, I think that it's just the fight that got cut. Um, you guys may have seen, but I never once once we saw the first fight with Lucius, I fully understood this dude was not deserving of the hype that we gave him in chapter 331 in that whole break. Like, I kind of regret making all those videos about how cool Lucius is going to be and blah blah blah, because he really wasn't that guy, and it was so obvious. And there, the way Tabata writes this is pretty obvious, and it's almost so obvious that you just disregard it, because it's almost like it's just basic writing, right? So, like, one example is, I got into like this whole debate, uh, where I was explaining that Xenon is going to be the biggest problem out of the triad. He ended up being the biggest problem. But one of the things that people weren't agreeing with was that, he's not even, like, he doesn't really talk much. When they showed the triad, like, they had 3 panels of the triad. Uh, and Dante was in the middle and Xenon was on the side. And he was like, well, if he was really a problem, he would be in the middle. But I mean, like, sure, but just when you're going with the narrative, it's usually the quiet ones you have to look out for, right? Like, I don't know if you guys grew up in ethnic families, but like growing up, that's what I was told. If you're messing with someone who's too quiet all the time, you might be messing with the wrong one, and they might snap one day. And that was Xenon that whole time. Um, there was another example I was going to give and totally just forgot. Um, Lucifero. Lucifero is a big one. When Lucifero first lost his cool on Asta, that was exactly when I knew this is not our endgame guy. And I was fighting tooth and nail with like the entire fandom. I felt like that he was never put in a place to make it seem like he was gonna be the end game. And it turns out he wasn't, right? And I know we're getting really close. It's like it's too late for these rug pulls and blah blah blah. I don't think there's going to be a big rug pull here. I think there might be an attempt at one, but I think what's going to offset it is things that already happened that involve Lucida, and Lucida's efforts into Libe specifically may prevent events from really falling out the way they would have. So I guess going into that, I wanted to really talk about Adrenaline. There's a couple of things. Every time I think of Adrenaline, what I think of is how he looked at Asta when they were done fighting Lucifero, right? He kind of gives him this little squint and glare, and he really could have finished Asta right then and there. He wasn't part of the plan. Obviously Adremelech had got some idea of the events that were going to happen, which is why he waited and didn't assist Lucifero. But Asta was never in any of the timelines that Lucius was actually looking at. So it would make sense as to why he was looking at him the way he did, but not killing him is something that I think is kind of weird. There was almost like a what are you doing here type of look that he gave him. And then he just, of course, simply flies away with Lucifero's heart. But then we skip to the events now, where he offers to possess Yami, which is a very, very dangerous bargain. It has a high payoff in the moment, but a lot of danger in the long run. So the last time we saw possession was with Zagrid, right? We've seen multiple possessions by Zagrid. Um, the first by the human royal that he ends up using him to bind Lumiere so that he could delay him from getting to the wedding. Um, that was that was probably second possession by then. Actually, now that I think about it, because the way Tabata writes it, it seems that Ron was the main victim of Zagre's possession, and then he did it to Baval as well. So we see that it's a full takeover of someone's psyche, right? Of course, we don't see a full takeover with Yami when he does it initially, which I think is just to make Yami comfortable. I think the Dreamlike is still looking for that rug pull. And as you guys can see, even though it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, I still think there's room for this Order of the Fly thing to happen, or an attempt at it, right? So we're going to go back and kind of talk about Libe and his origins and what doesn't actually make a whole ton of sense. And I think it's just fair to start with this post that I put, and I'll just read it to you guys. So it says, for nobody, right? Libe sure did know a lot about the underworld. We don't really know how time operates in the underworld, but we do know it's different than the realm of the living. So it could make sense that over time, he acquired this information while he was still very small in devil years. But there are comparative instances that leave me wondering about him still. So we don't have many devils that give us more depth, but we do have 4 mid-ranking devils that never even mention Nama or Lilith as familiar figures in the underworld, despite them being more than likely from a lower level. So the 4 devils in question are Gimedella, Plumede, Wagner, and Stolos, right? Never talk about a Supreme Devil, ever. They don't name drop one single one. And that's weird to me. Because I forgot how I ended up quantifying this, but it would make the most sense that those 4 devils specifically come from the same realm that Lucificus comes from, which is why they interact with Nox's attributes so well. But anyway, to get back to this. So to not mention them with such familiarity might tell us that communication between the levels of the underworld is really limited and most likely just limited to the Supreme Devils. So then Libe shows that he understands a very intimate and deep level of forming pacts, which is extremely strange given the fact that we only see pacts being made with mid to supreme level devils, but the only ones that we see make bodily pacts are only supreme devils with lots of power. And even more strange is that by the time we get Libe getting thrown out of the underworld, Astaroth is already long gone by that point. So no mention of a Supreme Devil disappearing or reflecting on the fact that he himself was able to escape like the Supreme Devils before him is really weird. To couple that with Lucifero knowing Zagrid was able to escape and still not mention Astaroth as having disappeared, it makes it start to seem like they knew Astaroth isn't actually like missing, or that he didn't just end up just up and disappear. But to be fair, Lucifero is really only focused on high-ranking devils when he mentions this, but at the same time, he's just doing a ton of assuming because he also calls anti-magic a paltry low-level attribute. So this makes Libe's existence still very strange. And we're going to reach back all the way to some of my first videos where I talk about Libe's real identity, right? So Libe's not his devil name. We don't know Libe's actual name. We don't know his actual age. What we're given, though, is Libe's age in human years. It's literally in parentheses. It says 15 or whatever age we got it. How old was Asta during the pack? Like 18? 18 in human years is what Libe is. So that shows time's already different. We get this communication thing is very important to me because to not have any of the 4 devils Nox has even mention a single Supreme Devil, is both faulty writing, but also really strange because I do think it's part of the mechanic. Um, we see Lucius and Adremelech telepathically communicating, and the only way that could really happen uh, is that obviously Lucius doesn't seem to be in a contract with Adremelech. The only way that could happen is through having Lucifero's core. Uh, and I think that's more of a divination type of thing, right? Um, where even Lit, the highest apostle, is able to communicate with all the other apostles and other elves when he's connected to them. So I think that's what that shows is that communication level that any lower level devil can't and won't have because they're not at that level. So with that said, I think that Libe, under whatever circumstances, was one of the highest devils. And his intent was to get to the world of the living. And I think he was trying to liberate the entire underworld and do really, really bad things. But whatever happens, some memory got sacrificed. His ability was sacrificed. He had to sacrifice a ton to be able to get to where he was going to go. So when I said that I think whatever rug pull that might happen will only be an attempt, and it was already stopped because Lucida was at the forefront and showed Libe love, right? She showed that there are humans that have the capacity to understand that just because you are a certain thing doesn't make you inherently evil, doesn't make you bad automatically. It's your actions that make you bad. So my thought, I know it's probably not going to be the most popular thing ever, but I do still think Libe is someone that is high up in the ranks of devils. I would genuinely hate if he is Astaroth, but it would make sense that he is. But uh, what we're getting is Adremelech possesses Yami. The importance of this is that Yami is one of the major keys to opening the underworld. Probably the only key you actually need, as seen in Hino, where like, oh, now I think about it, that's bad. Because now I'm really thinking about it, right? In Hino, we have the black water that they say is directly connected to hell. Then we have Noel making some kind of weird contract with Leviathan, who is, I will not bend off the fact that that's a full-on devil. Like, come on. So now that I'm really thinking, I didn't really think about Noel in this and Leviathan, but to pull the rug out from under their feet using both of those characters would be incredibly insane because these are two characters that Asta really respects, right? And one potentially that he loves, unless you're a Mimosa stan. I don't know. I don't really have skin in the game on this. But in that sense, it could be a forced takeover, right? Where they do open the key to the underworld. We do still have Megicula out there. Now that Lucius is dead, all the displaced souls, Baal, Beelzebub, whoever the heck had the earth and water magic, probably Asmodeus and Belphegor, are now back where they should be in the underworld. Now all that's left is just to let them out. Dark magic is perfect. And Adremelech has possession, not a contract. He's got possession over Yami. And we even see, I hope you guys saw this when I posted it, but look at their posture. It's the exact same. Like the right leg is up more than the left. He's drooped down both arms. And we look at Adremelech, it's the same thing. It's the exact same stance. So I do think something is coming. Yami also does show like some shadows under his, like some bags under his eyes when Julius dies. This could be just obvious sadness, right? Because that's someone he really looked up to, someone that helped him assimilate to the Clover Kingdom, being a foreigner. So obviously it's going to hit home, and I'm not going to say that it can't be as simple as that, but I'm going to say that we do see similar bags under Adremlec's eyes at some point. So it's giving potential rug pull about to happen, but I do believe that Libe is the last real threat. I'm putting that in quotes. You just can't see. Is the last real threat here, and that's also the theme of this entire story, is that the biggest threat is always the one closest to you. Um, with William overturning the whole kingdom, right? Because he was just being a fence sitter the whole time, committing treason. Then you have, of course, Julius and Lucius. Again, the enemy is always right next to you. This whole time, Asta and Libe have been working together seamlessly. They make the contract. Their souls are pretty much bound together now. This could be really bad. But again, Lucida did a lot of heavy lifting, if that is the case, because she showed him love. Asta showed him the same love. It triggered that memory in the fight. So it's really just solidifying the fact that no matter what happens, if Libe does end up becoming a part of whatever rug pull Adremelech is pulling, he's got ultimate authority here, and it might just be a clean I'm just going to take them all back to where we go, and it might look like the Elf Arc, where they had like the tree and stuff, and they brought all the souls back to where they belong, and they just reseal it and all that good stuff. But there's also this weird thing happening with Adremelech specifically. So this might not include Libe at all. And the thing is that Adremelech's power shouldn't be where he's at, right? And this was something that we predicted a while back, is that Adremelech was going to be that Okiora type, where he might have a lower level, but his strength surpasses most levels and most devils, right? So remember, the hierarchy that we see is, it's like it gets progressively stronger as we go down the levels. Starting with fire, that's pretty basic. Then ice, moving on to atmosphere. We'll skip Adremelech for now, right? But if atmosphere is above both fire and ice, he should have fit cleanly in there, because above that, well, you know what? Now that I'm really thinking about, no, it still makes sense, because we do have Earth above Baal, and Earth is not just like the Earth, right? Like, it's whatever ground there is. So like, there's, in quotes, Earth on Mars. There's Earth on Venus. It's just that substance, right? So there's more of that than anything else, any fire or ice, right? Then you have water, which is, of course, like one of the building blocks of life, and it's very important conceptually and literally. Very just a powerful force in general. And then so on. You guys get the gist, right? So light does happen between, let's just say, fire and ice in the atmosphere. However, it stems from a much greater source outside of that, right? So him having light magic is telling me that there's something more to him. There's not just this, it's not just a random placement, right? He's totally out of place here. And it fits him well, because he's a fallen god in lore. Of course, he's not your classical fallen angel like most of them are. He's a completely separate entity from the pantheon itself, and he was regarded as one of the first Satans. So canonically, he shouldn't be the same, which is why I'm glad he said this isn't a really devilish power, but here you go. So all of that does track. So as far as rug pull goes, I still have Adremelech stocks. I don't know about you guys, but I got a lot riding on that. I'll be very disappointed if nothing comes from that. Like very, very disappointed because we're leaving a lot of boxes unchecked here. Um, but I do want to take some time to like get your guys' thoughts, some questions, some things that you guys may have noticed. Anything else? I forgot to check back. Byron, you said it's in the Seabed Temple arc when they fought Beto. Yeah, I remember that. I was asking more of like what recent events you were talking about as far as that goes. Um, I wonder. Let's check some people out while I'm on here. We're gonna check on Buzz. Buzz. Uh, what's his actual handle? Buzzard. Buzzard. Uh, maybe am I getting it wrong? Bro, it's gonna be so embarrassing if he like blocked me or some crazy shit. Um, where would I see Buzz? I literally just saw him on my timeline. What the? Well, shit. Oh, I know what I can do. We'll check those. Wait, Did Buzz deactivate? Bro. Hold on. Oh wow. Dude, did he deactivate? What the fuck? Oh, there we go. Jeez, why was that so hard? Buzzard is here. Good God. Okay. Let's see if he's said anything interesting lately. We're gonna judge him. We're gonna critique him harshly. Let's see. Anything Black Clover? I have not been reading Kagurabachi. Seems cool now. I was not digging the unnecessary hype when it came out, so I dropped it. But yeah, it seems like it's pretty well received now, like rightfully. So I might hop onto it. I don't know yet. I wasn't really liking the art in that series, to be honest. Like every time Ichiro was like turned to the side, they would like turn his whole head to the side, but like draw his full face, like staring at. I don't know. It was just so weird. Yeah, I couldn't get behind it. I'm like in the middle of dropping this other series. I wouldn't say I'll drop it. I'll probably read it, but I'm losing interest because I can't make out what's happening in the drawings. It's called Gonron Egg. Pretty cool story. Um, but man, I found myself in the last chapter. I was looking at a drawing, and I just could not make out what was going on. Buzz, what do you? You don't even talk about Black Clover anymore. You just repost Black Clover. That's crazy. Oh, these are. This is not his current account, is it? It must be. There's no way. Oh wow. Um. Oh, maybe I could do that instead. Where'd he go? There he is. Buzz. Should call Buzz right now. Just be like, what the fuck? All right. Oh no, it is him. Okay. Did he delete a bunch of shit? Like, I swear he posts a lot. Anyway, let's see if there's any Black Clover takes. 60 fucking pages. I want the latest. I want the latest. 6 days ago. Okay. Hot. Hot. Which Black Clover Vanessa Inotech has saved me? Black Clover hot. Jesus Christ, bro. This is. We're airing them out. You see how ridiculous this is? This is absolutely insane, dude. Absolutely insane. Take a shower, take a lap. Take a shower, take a lap. All right. I'm just saying he's been wanting to draw fantasy, and I need some new Black Clover fix once the actual story ends, especially they're probably talking about that one series. Oh, yeah. That one's Odor of the Flame. This one's so good. If you like Black Clover and the lore behind it, Odor of the Flame is really good. Um, I, I, I'm behind on that one right now, but it's really, really good. What's the best ideas you guys can think of for a Black Clover sequel? Is a great question, actually. I think there's a lot of room for a sequel, and I would hope if there is a sequel, um, like Tabata's not as involved, right? Because not that I think Tabata's a bad writer. I think that everything happening in his life, I think that life and this manga lifestyle is just doesn't work for him. So like maybe as an editor instead, um, might be better, or just a conceptual director, like just not fully like there and present all the time. I would much prefer that. But there's a lot that this series can do, and could have done even. Uh, so I'd be there for the sequel. I honestly just wouldn't have high hopes for the sequel unless they gave us some details on like exactly who's in what capacity on the board, whatever. Um, I just remember the Black Clover world has guns, anti-magic guns specifically. Yeah, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. It's beautiful, actually. Moving into the age of technology is great. We're getting closer to Hungry Joker as time moves on. One cool thing Tabata could do is allow people like Johnny Owned. Okay, yeah. Okay, he's really good with like the back, you know, the background stuff, the mechanics and all that stuff. I don't care about that stuff really. Um, I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, whatever success. All right. I need something tangible here. Let's see. How is the most? Nope. Oh, I like this one. What is this? If we were to get a sequel to Black Clover, oh, didn't I just read that? Oh, he'd love it if it opened with a funeral for us, and it's huge, grand affair like Himmel's death. I don't know who that is, because I'm not a real anime fan. And have all the characters around, and then flash forward 10 years. Oh, I remember like we had a very small conversation here. Um, yeah, so he says, ideally, I'd love for the main character to explore the Grand Magic regions for the initial portions, and then explore the lands beyond the Spade Kingdom. After that, take him beyond the continent, make it an adventure manga. Imagine if they went Mario Leone in the Grand Magic regions as a fire spirit, which now can't happen now that time got reversed. Um, Maybe as an old man just chilling in the lands beyond Spade after his reign, and they come across him when they try to venture past Spade. Um, yeah, him and I ended up having a conversation. I'll show it to you, but I remember what I said, because I was thinking it was a good idea, and I could see having his own kingdom on the moon, right? I think that'd be fucking fire, bro. Right? Because he's got his mom, Ciel's a moon mage, right? We don't know what that means at all, which is crazy. If the series ends without showing what moon magic does, I don't know. I don't know. I might blow a fucking gasket or something. But um, what did with Neverland is fantastic, right? Because it's a huge monozone. That's what that is. A very specialized monozone where he now stops the influence of time. Perfect. And then I had made a suggestion once Neverland came out where it's like, dude, Yuno's done the Wizard King thing where he's figured out a way to bypass death, right? If he wanted to. Because if you can apply a monozone, naturally you can already do a mono skin. Now, what if you took Neverland, and we already saw that he can make it smaller, right? He localized it to just him and Lucius when Lucius closed the distance on him. And so now, what if we take it and make it so that it's a skin instead? Now we have a timeless boy. We've got Peter Pan effectively. And he never dies, doesn't age. He's just in his prime, getting stronger and stronger all the time. He then takes, whatever group of people, takes them to the moon to make sure that they don't see conflict ever again, right? Is like a king, an emperor in this sense, right? Of an entire pseudo planet. But in this adventure thing, right? Meeting someone like would be like sees everything happening. If you look at like my Star Magic video, I go over all the ways he could potentially end up using Star Magic as like forgetting divinations, predicting the future, influencing the future as well, because he uses conjunction, which shouldn't be a star spell for being extremely real here. I'm not sure why Tabata went there, but conjunctions are used to predict events that in the past have been mostly catastrophic, but could just be for other things, just influencing the future, right? So that's when planets align, and when planets align, certain events are supposed to happen and unfold and all that good stuff. So I think having someone like be like a guiding force, at first invisible to that main character, but then ultimately leading him to a place where they could finally meet. And maybe is trying to be more hands off, because the way I see it is like I think Buzz has a similar idea here when he's talking about Mario Leona. He says chilling in the lands beyond the spade. Sorry, not Mario Leona, but chilling in the lands beyond the spade. He's being hands off, but Mario Leona also in this sense is hands off, as she always has been. So like reaching these like very profound mages that have decided to detach themselves would be really cool to see, because then we have like a pseudo Greek adventure type of myth happening where like this great character sets off on a great grand adventure, meeting these very integral figures in not just the previous story, but like actively in the world itself, making those alliances or getting the training needed to be able to reach new levels of power from these people, or now forces of nature, would be such a cool thing to see in a sequel. I think a lot of potential for that, and a lot of this idea also comes from Berserk, where the main, like, he's not the main one, he was like one of the wizards that they had encountered. He was saying how spirits are the like elemental spirits are heroes from previous generations. So instead of like full on dying and going to whatever afterlife, they become like protectors of the world, and reveal themselves to those who are worthy and all that good stuff. So something like that would be great, I think. Do I think a sequel is going to happen? No, I don't. But yeah, let's see what else he's got. This dude's such a nerd. Oh my goodness, such a nerd. What are the techniques common to the Black Clover power system that theoretically every mage with enough magic should be able to use with training? Mana skin, key reading, mana method, runes, arrays, true magic, foe, ultimate magic, mana zone, Zed, and anything else. Is there anything else outside of that list? Like, he just asked a question and then covered every base. Like, does anyone have anything like? Okay, that's a good point. Well, Zed and I wouldn't say something that almost every mage with enough magic would do, because it was stated to be even a rare technique to achieve in Hino. I think only the Ryuzen have done so, or something like that. Yeah, he's right. Yeah, okay. That'd be the only other objection. So Buzz says, I think a typical mage would have the ability to do it eventually. There's nothing holding them back that makes it unachievable. I think that's a true statement too. It's probably truer than the one I just read. Because, yeah, I think the mages in the Four Kingdoms are just pretty with all the shit, right? Like they can do anything you need them to, except like fight hand to hand, which is what Hino's really good at. So yeah, I think that makes sense. Dude, if Asta were to teach Yuno a Zeton, it's probably just wraps. It's game over for real. If he ever teaches him how to read key, it's also just a wrap for real. Yuno can do anything. He's just broken. Um, yeah, I was hoping he was dishing out some theories out here, but I don't think he's got any theories as of late. Man, I just remembered back during the Triad invasion, we actually thought that we might get a first clip off incidents flashback eventually. So much is left unexplored in this world and Zad's end story. Sometimes I still can't believe Black Clover is in its final arc. Yeah, no real theories. All right, Buzz, your homework is to make more theories. Oh, there's a shout out. We're not going to read it. Yeah. He's got no theories anymore. The well is run dry. However, I still have my theories. So I'll probably do this again a little more organized relatively soon. I was kind of missing the YouTube space. Um, but yeah, I really did want to get out this idea of Asta getting soul magic and it ultimately just not mattering at all. Um, I think would be awesome. Um, I think if he did get it, it would be kind of cool to see him use it in a way that makes sense to his character. And maybe something actually selfish from Asta would be nice to see. This whole series, he's been very selfless. He was willing to give back. The grimoire that gave him power. He was when Licht was about to go back to being dead. Um, he was like, "Isn't this yours?" Like, holding it up like he was going to give it to him. He's like, "Just keep it. It's yours now." So if you're humble enough to do that, he thanked Libe. He fully understood that without Libe's power, he wouldn't have made it anywhere close to where he was. Um, you know, so again, all these selfless acts, he deserves something selfish. So if he got soul magic, I would hope that he makes sure that Lasita does come back. Um, you know, I think that'd be a nice little ending for him. Um, and just one present from himself to himself was is allowing him to have a mother in real time. It would be great. Maybe even bringing back Julius would be cool. I think it'd be even cooler to bring back Lucius as well. I think that would speak monuments about his character. And in this sense, with everything I had said about, not having access to a grimoire or the magic, if if the if the mage that is supposed to wield it exists and already has it already, um, it would leave Lucius with no magic, right? So it's like a big timeout, unintentional, but it's a big timeout for Lucius to be like, just sit back and just watch how this is done without like fucking up people's lives intentionally, right? I think that would really, really push Asta's character to the next level. It'd be like the last, like when he fought Ladros, and Ladros was ready for death. He was like, just do it. And Asta was like, no, you're gonna make sure you right all your fucking wrongs here. And yeah, if he does that, Asta would be the greatest MC of all time. It'd be like a go. Um, so I would like to see that. Maybe even bringing what's his face back, Morgan. That'd be so awesome if he did that because I think he understands. Like, or does Asta even know about Morgan at all? Now that I think about it, I don't think he does. Well, never mind then. I guess that wouldn't actually make sense. But it would be nice. It would still be very nice to have characters just get family members back. Ossier for the Silvas would be great. Their relationship's all mended and stuff, but I think it'd be really nice for them to have their mom, um, and that would be, the contrast is still working between Lucius and Asta, right? And it goes back to the Antichrist and Christ things, where um, the Antichrist is performing these things that look like miracles, um, but he's doing a lot of damage to the world itself when he does this, and they can't tell. People can't tell um, if it's the Antichrist or actually Christ himself. It's how close they are in power and form. In this case, if Asta does get this soul magic, and he's doing these things, he's not doing anything maliciously, but he's performing this out of the love, out of the bottom of his heart, to these people that he cares about and the people that he can reach, right? So, doing stuff like that, he can heal William, and whatever familial curse that's befallen him would probably just go away at that point. He could heal Henry. Um, he could do all these things. But there's some things you could argue, like healing those people might go against the story itself, right? Something I did say earlier is Asta is proof that these obstacles um, they don't determine where you go, but they do define who you are. The way you overcome those obstacles, what you make of them, becomes who you are. So maybe the value is in the struggle, and he just fully opts out of doing any of those things, which I also think would be cool. There's really no going wrong if Asta does have soul magic. I think whatever he does, fully justified. I think this kid does deserve something, though. So if he doesn't at least give himself a mom, I'd be really upset. Or maybe not even just for him, for Libe. Be like, hey, I don't know this bitch, but you do. Like something, right? And then maybe then Lucida could unseal this kid and he could have a real life outside of a grimoire. Um, Something I also noticed is that like Asta never gives this guy clothes, but Lucida does. So maybe Libe does go rogue and evil because he never got like clothes. Just something to think about, I guess. But anyway, I think I'm going to end it here. So I just thank the few people that like came in. You guys are so awesome. Um, I will definitely try to do this again pretty soon. More planned. Um, I'll actually have like a schedule of things to talk about with you guys. But yeah, always here to just yap about Black Clover. And it's been great. So thank you guys again for joining. It's been Jacko's to go. You either know or you don't.